Hey, podcast listeners, thanks for joining us. This week on the podcast, 6 shady tactics that we use to outgun the competition, and 1 tip you can use to avoid a price war. Let's get moving. Hello, everybody. Hey, Ian. This is the Lifestyle Business Podcast, your source of inspiration and commiseration for starting a business. Well, first, we're going to make a disclaimer that there is a fighting rooster outside of my window right now, and that he will probably be injecting himself. There's also some singing ladies. It's crazy, so please don't make fun of me too much.
You're making my life sound pretty boring. I think just me and my cat, and he doesn't really have a lot to say tonight.
I am actually uploading. We are live on Skype via a wireless fob, 3G fob, which is pretty cool. I never really used that technology in the States, and that's allowed me to be working on some emails this morning while on bus and ferry. So it was pretty awesome. So today we've got a really cool topic. Some shady business tactics that we employ in order to beat our competition. How about that for a provocative title? I think it's pretty cool.
Pretty cool, and we're not necessarily shady guys, I wouldn't say, but there's definitely some gray area that we've kind of hung out in, launching products and just doing business.
Real quick, speaking of gray area, I think one of the things that we've had a little bit of ambivalence about is this term lifestyle business. And I think that that's something that we're kind of working to articulate. I was watching another Gary Vee video. In fact, it's part of the video that I shared yesterday, and we should share more in the future. But it got me reflecting again on this idea of lifestyle business. And I think what I'm trying to do with this terminology is just try to make a separation between business for the sake of business, like business for the sake of profit per shareholder, and move that towards something like the first question before you start a business is you ask yourself what you want personally. You ask the lifestyle questions. You ask the what is my passion questions. And I think that to me is the distinction that we're driving at here. Some people had some questions. You guys work so hard. How can you call that lifestyle business? And so to anyone who's thinking that, I think my response is that, what Ian and I are working really hard for is to create the kind of life that we desire. And for us, that definitely means a much, much bigger platform. Much more investment opportunities, much more engagement opportunities. I can't imagine a version of myself where I don't want to work with great people every day trying to build something.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's the same for me, obviously, as well. And I think, lifestyle business, it kind of gets thrown around a lot, and I think that much as it is that, and being able to have a bunch of guys and girls around you that can help make your ideas part of life. Help you create your visions into larger visions that can be shared with people.
Speaking of platform, the podcast has just been really exciting lately. After every episode, whether good, bad, mediocre, I'm not sure, we're getting lots of emails. And it's awesome. To me, it's exciting to know that there's people really engaging with the content and really interested in what we have to bring to the table. So I hope we can keep bringing up our game. One more thing before we hop into the featured segment here is I saw an interview on Mixergy, that's Andrew Warner's site, earlier today, where an iPhone app developer was talking about burn rate and how he leveraged living in Thailand as an opportunity for him to basically allow his company to survive longer. And this is this idea right after I got off the microphone talking about how I think this is such a huge cultural moment in terms of people doing startups in developing countries or baselining their expenses. Here I see an interview with a guy who took advantage of that in order to start his company, and it looks like his company is doing quite well now. So I will link to that interview in the show notes here, and we'll send you outbound over to Andrew's site, which is a nice site as well.
Good tip.
Okay, so Ian, my question for you, just first ground this talk we're going to have about Shady business tactics. What are we talking about with Shady here? And, what do we mean by Shady, I guess, and why are we talking about it today?
Okay, I think what we mean is not a lot of guys talk about this. And, I think just as a disclaimer, this isn't encouraging anybody to be dishonest. I think we are 100% honest. It's just kind of what portion you choose to show people or what portion you choose to tell people. But I think for the most part, we are super honest, transparent guys. And I think that's really the only way that I roll. Is just being honest with our customers 100%, never cheating anybody, never stealing from anybody, anything like that. So I just want to, let everybody know that's kind of how we roll. And when we say shady, we just mean kind of getting things done in interesting ways that aren't necessarily, aren't run-of-the-mill ways to get things done. And in some cases, I wouldn't say illegal, but I would just say interesting.
Well, if they were illegal, it wouldn't be wise for us to bring it up. But I think it's interesting when you talk about a lot of what this stuff is like highly strategic angling or information gathering, so to speak.
That's a good way to put it.
And a lot of that goes on. Like everybody does that kind of stuff in their business, but you're right to say that not a lot of people share that information. And so I think, part of why I'm interested to have this conversation with you today is to say, like, look, we're willing to share the ways in which that, we take advantage to get unique information that can be helpful in our business. And hopefully that'll inspire the community to then share with us some tactics that are working for them. And also just to make ourselves responsible. I mean, if somebody is listening today thinks that this is immoral and we shouldn't be acting this way, then it's possible that we need to reevaluate some things.
Sure, and I think the bottom line is that you've got to figure out ways to get customers. You got to figure out ways to sell products, and some of that you've just got to get creative with it. And I think in a lot of ways we just get creative with it.
Sure.
So yeah, I'm definitely open to reevaluating some of these things as well.
Okay, well, let's go into we've got 5 shady business tactics that we use to grow our business. Okay, Ian, kick us off on the first one.
Number 1, the Alexa traffic rankings. And the way that this is basically used for all you out there is the Alexa toolbar you can install on your browser, or you can just go to, I think it's alexa.com. And you can see how much traffic your competitors are getting.
Right. I think that compete.com has a similar service, but doesn't rank sites. If you're in a smaller niche, it doesn't rank sites that aren't in like the top, echelon of traffic getters. So the Alexa toolbar can be helpful to compare how much traffic you have versus others in your niche, because it actually gives you a number ranking. So like you are the 5 millionth site in the world or whatever. And so you can use that to judge who's getting more traffic.
And a cool little feature of this is when you type in, say, your site or your competitor's site, you can see your Alexa traffic ranking number in the world, and then you can also see it by country. So you can tell if your competition, for example, one of our competitors is developing in India, and you can see that because it has a huge traffic ranking in India. And ours has a larger traffic ranking in the Philippines. So that'll give you an idea of where your competition is developing.
Yeah, and I think it's difficult for people to hide that fact. So if you want to get an idea of how your competitors are investing in their websites, you can get that idea by this geolocation traffic analysis.
And I think in the next couple of years, this is going to become you're not going to have to dig around for this information as much. It's going to be right there. It's going to become very transparent.
Number 2 point tool that we use is called linkdiagnosis.com. This is a really fascinating one. If you're an SEO expert or an internet marketer, you might have a tool that does similar work. Basically, link diagnosis allows you to perform link espionage on your competitors, and you can see every single website that is linking into their site. That's helpful for so many ways. I mean,
we
a lot of
started
time,
an e-commerce site not too long ago based on a lot of information that came from link diagnosis, right?
yes. I mean, you can find so much information. It opens up the storybook of their website. Who's linked to them? Why are they linked to them? Sometimes, a lot of times, what happens is people are personally linking to their websites, and they don't know at the time that people are going to be able to see that information. And so there's all kinds of interesting information that comes out from that. Some of the most directly applicable thing is if you want to rank higher than your competitors, the number one way to do that is to get better links than them. And so if you're not at number one in Google, do a link diagnosis on the person who is, look where they're getting their links, and then develop a plan to get better links than them. That's basically what it comes down to. There's a similar application for analyzing if you've ever done Google AdWords, which is Google's advertising platform, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners have. There is a similar application to see what your competitors are bidding on. There's actually a lot of them. I've used SEM Rush in the past, and that can tell you exactly what your competitors are bidding on in terms of key terms. So that's just another thing you can look into.
Very cool. Third point is the Whois Look Up. Now this is pretty cool. I'm sure we use this all the time. But basically you can see who owns domains, right? So you can see who your competition is, basically. It'll put a name to it, unless you hide it. And a lot of people don't hide it. So you've actually got to pay extra, I think, when you sign up for a domain like through GoDaddy to hide your personal information or to hide the information that's tied to your domain. So that's something to consider if you guys want to keep secret.
I know when you do the domain Whois Look Up, it'll give you their address, and sometimes, I'm not sure if it's telephone number, but it gives you some pretty robust information about who owns the site. There's also an upgrade service that some affiliate partner offers, which is that you can buy the report of all the sites that they own. You ever see that offer? I've actually never found it that valuable. I think it's like $80 for a report or something, but they'll tell you, like if you look up your competitor and you pull up their screen, it'll say this guy owns 90 domains, for example. And if you pay them $80, then you can see the 90 domains. So I mean, if you had if you really needed that information, it's out there to get. So another, on the converse side, is like Ian was saying, protecting yourself from this kind of thing is important too. I mean, if you don't want people getting your address from your websites, make sure that when you register with GoDaddy, you pay your extra $9 a year to get a private registration.
Yeah, you can really find out a lot of information from some of these tools, and also just digging around on people's websites. I mean, one of the easiest ways to figure out what's going on is to just go to the bottom of the page. A lot of times the web developer will put a link there, and you can just see. You can just kind of I like to just kind of get a visual image for myself of our competition, where they spend money, who they're working with. Kind of gives me an idea of who we're up against.
It's interesting, and let me just let me toss in a quick fourth tool. Let me add an extra tool. We said we were going to do 5, but you just prompted my memory of something that we do quite a bit as well, which is the Wayback Machine.
Yeah.
If anybody's ever been to archive.org, you can go there, and basically this web application takes a photograph of all the relevant sites on the internet, like every couple weeks or whatever, and then it it catalogs it. So you can actually go back, and you can do this with your website too, and see what it looked like, you know, 10 years ago. And you can do that with any popular website. And it's really fascinating because you can see what the copy was, what the value propositions were, how those things evolved over time, what the prices were.
Yeah, that's what I would say the most important thing is pricing.
Yeah.
So
this it's fascinating. I mean, you don't want to like have analysis paralysis here, but it's, you know, this is actually some people say like, oh, when you're an entrepreneur, like you get rid of your TV, right? And you kind of like always think about your business. And sometimes instead of like playing games, I'll do fun business kind of stuff. Like, oh, what's a new business I could start, or what's a new niche we could get involved in? And it's kind of like your beer activities. Like if I crack a beer or something, this is kind of a good task to do while you're drinking a beer, winding down for the end of the day. Just kind of poking around, getting a feel for this stuff. It's not like highly productive work, I'd say. You know?
No, and I don't think I think it's a culmination of all these tools that really make them valuable. You know, you're not going to get information from the Wayback Machine and probably start a business, but so anyways.
Well, let's move on to then number 5, or number 4B, whatever you want to do. Selling products that don't exist.
Huge.
This is huge, and it's something that is, I think, especially if you're a first-time entrepreneur, it can be a sticking point. You can, you know, not want to do this, but I think that the upside potential, even for your market, like the ways in which you can serve your market better if you're selling products that don't exist, are huge. Because you're basically then not investing and basically putting yourself out of business or wasting your time selling products that people don't want.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of ways you can do this, you know. And the bottom line is focus groups suck, you know.
Focus groups do suck.
And I don't know who thinks they're a good idea, and please let me know if you've held focus groups and they've really led to successful things. But, you know, getting a bunch of people in a room and asking them if they'll buy a product, you know, say, here's the product, will you buy it? You know, 9 times out of 10, everybody in the room says, yeah, that's a great product, you know. But
especially if you served cookies.
Yeah, exactly. Cookies and lemonade. But then actually taking their money is a totally different situation, you know. So you say, okay, will you buy this product? Everybody says yes. You say, okay, give me the money. You get a totally different answer. And so that's why focus
especially
groups
when
suck.
they're sitting at home in front of a website. I mean, it's a whole different ballgame. And yeah, it's the hardest thing to get someone to do is to pull out that wallet and put the plastic into the website. So you want to test that. You want to make sure that your product, your value propositions can be able to inspire that. We've done that a bunch of different ways. I mean, some tactics you can do to employ this is if you're doing an information product, I know a lot of people who've sold an information product and then they just create it immediately. They used to do this with infomercials, is that if the infomercial went well, they would go like right to production and ship them direct from the factory in China.
That's when you see 3 to 4 week lead times, right? So
exactly.
A lot of guys are doing this. A lot of guys just aren't talking about it. So when it says back ordered or 3 to 4 week lead time, chances are they're taking your money and they're producing the product.
Now, I cannot give you legal advice, but I can say there's something to look into here, which is there is some legal area with you're not technically allowed to sell something that you can't deliver in 6 weeks, or there's some kind of cutoff, and that's definitely something you want to consult your lawyer friends with before you do anything too crazy. But yeah, you can definitely like put things on back order. You know, one option is to like have a buy now. This is, I'm just going to mention this as just something interesting to maybe perhaps consider, but never take my advice on, is to have a buy now button somewhere. Maybe you're not collecting their personal information yet, and then saying there's a technical error or you're on the list, like there's a mistake in the manufacturing. I think you don't want to, obviously you don't ever want to take someone's personal information if you're going to do it that way. So you would just want to take them into like a buying scenario. So this is a little bit morally gray, but it really depends on like what your production capabilities are. It really depends on like what your intentions are, and it's an awesome awesome way to get information about a market.
Yeah, I mean the thing here is to get people as close as possible to purchasing, if not purchasing. I mean that's how you're really going to learn about whether your product's going to be successful with people. It's not going to be by asking people. Chances are. So yeah, this is probably one of the more shady points.
It can be dicey, and I feel confident about the ways that we've done this in the past, that it's been of great value to our customers and to our business, obviously. So I just think you have to cut your own way with this stuff and just be responsible about it. That's all. So number 6.
Our final point is analytics backtracking. This is a pretty creepy one. I don't know if it's gray, but it's pretty creepy. So this is kind of a technique that we kind of stumbled upon, and it doesn't work for everybody, especially in extremely large markets. But if you have a small targeted niche market, it can work. So this is basically the way that it works: is you have Google Analytics set up on your website,
which everybody should.
Everybody should. And
wonderful free software.
Yes, and so basically you can go into Google Analytics and see who's been looking at your website and see what pages they've been on. So if you've got 10 product pages and somebody sits on a product page for 20 minutes, chances are, unless they're your competition, they're really interested in buying that product. So something that we've done is, in the past, is we've taken a look at, on a specific week, where our traffic is coming from and what they're looking at. So in one particular instance, like I said, I'll bring up, there was a heavy amount of traffic from a region in the Midwest. And so what we decided to do was send out an email blast to all of our customers in the Midwest, offering them a discount, basically. And we even called some prospective customers in the Midwest, in this region, right? And it turned out to be successful. We ended up getting some sales from it.
I think the key to this tactic is making it seem random. That it's, I mean, and in a lot of ways it is random. Google Analytics, and there's privacy controls. Like, they're not giving you the address of these people. You have no idea whether it was them or just a hobbyist. So what you're doing is using that as inspiration, saying like, look, the Midwest is interested in our products. Well, we're interested in the Midwest. So boom, like, here's an offer. And I think that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I think, maybe we think that's creepy because it's like on a small scale. Like, you were looking at like 4 or 5 users, but big companies do that all the time when there's like an explosion of traffic from Canada on Facebook. Like, they're going to do Canada apps or something. So I think that it's not super creepy.
No, it's not super creepy, but in 2 years from now, it's not going to be creepy at all. That's the thing. It might be a little bit creepy now just because we're like going into our analytics account and it just seems very, very targeted on our end, I guess. But in a couple years from now, it's not going to be creepy in the least bit. People are going to be doing this.
Well, that's an awesome list, man. I'm really excited about those 6 items. I hope the audience enjoys them and lets us know their feedback on some of those tactics. And man, I'd love to hear some more creative stuff like that, because those are some pretty good stuff. Those 6 items have made us a lot of money. I think that's the only way to say it. They made us a lot of money. So one quick thing with these email blasts that you send out is, if you have a good email blast program, like we use Infusionsoft, for example, Infusionsoft will tell you who opened the emails. And it'll actually log that in your system forevermore. So if I go to like client John Doe in the Midwest and I open up his profile, it'll say, this guy opened up this email blast on this date. And so I know that he read that content. And I'll know if he clicked through. And so that's kind of interesting as well. So that's another form of tracking your prospects that can be really helpful.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about data, right? So it's all about really targeted data, basically, or targeting whatever you're selling to your customer through data, right?
Hey, before we sign off here, I just had one quick tip on the top of my head that I'm just going to get out there and share, because I don't think it's an episode's worth or anything, but something we've been struggling with a little bit lately is One of our product lines is essentially in a price war scenario with our competition, and I think a lot of people are in this situation. And you got to ask yourself, like, what inspired me to think about this is you said, well, we sent them a discount, and you can't win like that. You can't build a business around offering better and cheaper and all the time, especially if you're a small-sized business. I mean, if you're Amazon.com, more power to you. But if you're me, I mean, there's only so far I can go under the limbo bar.
Right.
And one tactic that we've been exploring is bundling our products in really unique ways so that they can't be compared. And it's interesting the creative ways in you can do this, and it really rewards people with creativity and market sensibility. So, even if your product is just the same as your competitors, you're both selling a flower pot or whatever, you could get like a 50-cent DVD produced that talks about flower arranging, and you could send like a small swag gift or something interesting, inspiring, especially educational, helpful, something that can help them save money in the future. Not a coupon, but like a buyer's guide for flowers. They're going to save money then on flowers, and maybe they'll come back and buy more pots from you. Just something to think about if you ever find yourself in a price war scenario. Thinking of creative ways to bundle your products so that they don't look like anything else out there.
Yeah, it's a really good point, and it's something that only you can do. So really take the initiative on that and beat your competition through that.
Awesome.
And that brings me up. That brings me to another point that you just brought up, or you just touched on, and that is that direct mail is not dead. In fact, I think it's an extremely useful way to connect with your customers.
Oh my gosh. I think, that, my friend, is an episode, because I feel like I could talk for 10 hours about direct mail, just off the top of my head. We use it so often. It is so effective. And it's really a big part of my time is doing direct mail, to tell you the truth. And I think we should share some of that information.
Okay, well, we'll save that. Keep listening.
Yeah, keep listening. Hey, man, thanks for calling me. I am in a island resort in I don't even know where, but there's definitely like villagers outside of my hotel room right now banging on stuff. So it's gonna be awesome.
Cool.
Thanks. What are you doing? You're in San Diego, I presume.
I am hanging out in San Diego, getting ready to go to the East Coast next week. Make a couple stops over there. But
nice.
For the most part, we're banging it out in San Diego.
Nice. Sitting in the corner office petting your cat.
Yeah, absolutely. It's my favorite thing to do.
Well, I am Dan, and my co-host is Ian. Thanks for listening to the Lifestyle Business Podcast. Hey, podcast listeners. Thanks for joining us. Always good to have you. Don't be shy. We've got a mailing list, lifestylebusinesspodcast.com. Get signed up and keep up to date on everything we're doing.